What if I told you that everything in this life, good and bad, you chose for yourself? Hi, I'm Angela. You are listening to Divinely Connected, and we are talking about soul contracts. I'm so excited to be talking to you about this today. This has been coming up so much over the last, oh my God, I want to say even just, 6 to 8 months. It's showing up in people's sessions. It's showing up in weekly guidances. It's showing up in daily cards. It is showing up everywhere. And it's wanting to bring in this understanding that everything that we come into this life and experience, we have chosen for ourselves. I know, right? Like, what were we thinking? What were we thinking? And I get it. Listen, I get it. Especially if you were in a triggered space or in a very hard season, you're like, why the beep would I choose this for myself? I totally get it. Because when I was in my, down in the trenches season, I was like, what was I thinking? There's no way I would have chose this for myself. There's no way. But there is. There is a way because that's how it works. So, soul contract is a contract that you create for yourself when you're in spirit, when you are in soul form, of what you want to come into this life to experience. Okay. So, I love to teach it. I love to teach, period. I love to teach in the most grounded, down to earth way that we can get to this without overcomplicating it. Okay. So, I do prefer because I remember when I first started and I'm trying to learn and teach myself on how to use my gifts and all the healing that comes with it. And I remember just being in a constant state of overwhelm. So I hope that you take value from this today, and I hope that it transcends to you in a way that is not threatening, that is not overwhelming, and that you're able to absorb it and take a few little epiphanies or a few little aha moments throughout the session. So, as we are in spirit form and soul form, we decide on what lessons or what we want to experience in this life. Now, remember, we are made of unconditional love. We come from a place of unconditional love, joy. There's no limitations. There is no gravity. There is no physical body. There is no distance. There is no I'm here, you're there. It is all good all the time. That's what heaven is. That's what spiritual realm is. Okay. And so we need to come into this earth form to have a contrasting experience. Okay. And that just makes so much sense when you think of it like that. What happens a lot of us as humans, we're going through these experiences and we don't understand why. And then we can really get bogged down into falsehoods of I'm being punished, life is so horrible, et cetera, et cetera. I think as well that this is where that belief or that one liner that floats around that there is no hell, earth is hell, because it has contrast, it has limitations, it has hardships, it has ups, it has downs, it has everything that spirit form doesn't have. That's why we come here to learn and to grow and have experiences. So we tend to have a soul group. A soul group is a group of multiple souls that we spend each lifetime with, right? So we will play different roles. Your parents in this life could have been your children in last life, right? And we all kind of get together and go, okay, what are we wanting to learn? Oh, okay. And it is this very nonchalant type of experience because it's our human self that has such extreme emotions and such extreme like ego and blame game and pointing the finger and all of that jazz, right? So when we're in spirit, and this is even, and I see this so much when I'm doing my readings and I'm connecting with departed loved ones, and their departure was so tragic, and the living people, it's still in human form, are struggling so hard with the details of their departure, and they're in spirit going, nah, like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I remember the first time Spirit said that to me, and I was like, I am not saying that. I did because that's the deal. But like, I was so nervous because I'm like, how insensitive is that? but it is aligned with truth. And the example that Spirit gave me was, have you ever had an experience with a psychic or with someone who did like past life regressions, or they're like, oh my God, like, you were burnt on a stake in a past life, or you were on the Titanic, or you were in this massive tragedy in a past life, and you're like, oh my God, that's so cool. Right? Like, because we're not actually going through it this time. So it has like that similar type of experience that your souls on the other side are going like, oh yeah, well, that's how I had to leave this time. Right. And it is very light in that space, in that sense. Right. So that's the same type of experience that we have as our souls are deciding what we're going to do as we come into this life form. Okay, I'm going to do this, and then you're going to deceive me, and then I'm going to have to learn how to forgive and learn how to choose myself. And, so there is, or I'm going to have 3 children, or I'm going to, and there's going to be decisions that are made before we come into this life form. So in my opinion and my belief, everything that is big, the big experiences that we have in this life is already set in stone. Right. So the power of free will is that wiggle room of like that everyday life and how we're going to do it, the timelines of learning. And this will come up in my in readings if somebody says, for an example, is talking about wanting to know when their, lover is going to come in. And they will show me that, oh, they have this, and this lesson that they have to learn first. So I say, you can learn these lessons in 6 months, or you can take 6 years. It's up to you. It goes by the lesson. So there is a little bit of that wiggle room. We do have that power of free will, especially if we are set in our ways and we are resisting learning and healing, then that's where, we can prolong our experiences, or prolong, the suffering, or take the scenic route is what I like to say. So there is variations throughout our life that are completely up to us, but there are those trademark experiences in our life that we have chosen to have as we come in. The same thing goes with the length of the life that we have. We know on a soul level that what our departure date is. So there is, again, Spirit has taught me over and over and over again that you can die because of an accident, but you cannot die accidentally. Right. So again, we do have these markers for us in this life, and our departure dates are set before we come into this form. And this has been so validated to me through connecting with others and connecting them with their departures, their departed loved ones. And I remember specifically a mother that I've read for. She was telling me how she had 2 children, and a son and a daughter. And the daughter was born, and she never had like, anxiety for her. She never had lots of big worries for her. But her son came in, and she just was so worried, and constantly feeling like he was in danger, something was going to happen. And sure enough, he departed. I think he was around 21. It was an accident. And she remembers feeling almost this sense of peace going, there it is. I intuitively knew he wasn't going to have old bones. So her soul was like remembered, right? And it was still something that was very strong in her senses, where she knew but without knowing, right? And so when he did depart, when she did get news that he crossed over, there was almost this sense of like, well, that makes sense to what I was feeling all of these years. And that's just evidence that your soul knows, even though we then and so why do we not get to remember? That is intentional as well. If we come from a space which our soul is all knowing, right? Why are we here? There's no point of being here, right? So we need to not know. We need to forget. We need to forget our truths. And a lot of our life lessons that we go through in this experience is to get us back to our true self, which is unconditional love, which is ultimate peace, which is a high vibrational being. So again, there you will have these intuitive experiences throughout your life, or you may meet someone who was a soulmate. And now remember, I know that there's a lot of, especially in movies, like soulmates equal romantic partners. No, 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 no. Soulmates, oh my God, they come in so many forms. animals, your pets, your fur babies, your children. Of course, your lovers can be included, your friends, impactful connections, relationships. So, again, a soulmate is just that strong connection with someone that you have lived many lives with. Okay. So, we do have these soul connections. We do have this familiar feeling. I remember if you guys have seen me in person and come out to my Messages from Spirit events, Melissa, my soul sissy, and she works my second mic for me. And I remember meeting her. I was 19, and I obviously did not know about my gifts at this time. And instantly best friends. I was like, do I know you? Have we met before? Right? Just having this feeling of because my soul remembered. And I wasn't even aware of it yet. I was such a baby, right? And of myself. So before I even knew of my gifts, even knew of intuition and learned all the things that I have learned connected to that, I knew that there was history with me and her. That there was familiar feeling. She felt like home. I also had the same type of feeling when I met my husband. He just felt like home. I had the same type of feelings that I went with my children. I'm like, I know you. Like, I remember holding them as babies and just being like, they're so familiar feeling to me, right? So there is such strong connections that we have in this life where we do remember or we do have those feelings and sensations as our souls go click, 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 right? And that there's this type of feeling of our on that soul level, we remember. So now let's just think of all the crazy things that happen in our life. And if you think back and if you remind yourself that everything is on purpose, everything is on purpose. He cheated on you on purpose. You were meant to have that experience, right? And it's always for you. It's always for you to learn. It's always for you to grow. It's for you to have this experience and then for you to do what you need to do for you. Now, over the years, and this is again my personal opinion, I believe that life is about learning to unconditionally love yourself. Unconditionally love yourself. And there's so many experiences in our lives that we are on the back burner for, or we want to feel like we're punishing ourselves, or this is happening to us because I'm not good enough. But it's to get to a place where no matter what experiences you are having, that you are enough, that you are worthy and deserving, and that you are unconditionally loved. You are made of unconditional love. And I believe that if everybody could heal and get to that point, then what bad things could happen in this life? People who unconditionally love themselves do not hurt people, do not murder people, do not cheat people, do not beat people. We do not go to war, So it does make sense to me that this would be such a major goal for our souls to get to that space um on by ourselves, right? Figuring it out for ourselves, loving ourselves, forgiving ourselves, having compassion for ourselves. So as we go through these hardships and we go through these experiences, there is this feeling of like, where's the lesson? Now, what I see oftentimes, and this is ego, because remember, ego is always there, and the ego loves to be tricky. Trying to figure out the lesson doesn't mean that you get to control the situation. Or, if your quote unquote ego is telling you that, oh, you're their lesson to teach them how to love themselves, and they're a grown ass adult, that is not your lesson. Your lesson is saying they are a grown ass adult. and I am losing my peace and I am dimming myself and I am worthy of more than this. Right? So there is so much grief, again, is one of the biggest life lessons. So we often think of, especially if you lose someone that you feel is before their time or before your time, before you're ready to, then there is, and oh, I just almost caught myself like, nobody's ever ready to, but I get that. There is this sense of like, okay, what is this teaching you? Oftentimes it is a starter to your spiritual awakening. You have one of these major losses of someone who's very significant to you, it cracks you wide open. It comes in a time where then you go, what do I believe in? How do I feel about this? Am I open to my signs and symbols? Right? So again, so much learning comes from that, as well as compassion and saying, okay, this is how I'm feeling. I'm going to allow myself to feel it and I'm not going to criticize myself for it. Or even more lessons of is allowing yourself that. So many people I talk to go, oh, it's been 6 months, it's been 12 months, it should be over by now. Right? And oftentimes it is far from over, but we have to again learn the lessons that come within that. Same thing if you have very toxic parents, you are in abusive relationships. It is not something that you asked for in this life. It is something that you are experiencing so that you can take the lessons from it, right? So again, and I think too, when we think of soul contracts, we automatically go to the negative, but the positive is just as divinely timed and planned before you come into this life. You know who you're meeting, when you're meeting them, if you're getting married, if you're having children, if you get that dream job. All of this stuff is already put into motion for you. So again, when we think of it, and I think that again, we always go to the negative because we struggle so deeply with it, especially when we're in the hardships or we're in those struggle seasons and we're petrified to make the wrong decision. I always ask myself, okay, what am I supposed to be learning? I also have a belief that what is happening is meant to happen, even if I don't like it. Even if I don't like it, it's happening because it's meant to happen. Cycles and lessons also repeat until we learn them. So if you are constantly dating someone who is a lying, cheating bastard, then you're going to continue to attach to that type of personality until you learn the lesson that you came here to learn. Right? So again, there's so much of this life experience, like I said, that we have the power over, the control over. It's the timelines, right? And when we lean into it and we choose to do what is best for ourselves, and that it looks like healing, that looks like self-love, that looks like self-forgiveness, that looks like acceptance, and understanding that everyone in our life, our children, our parents, the strangers at the store, are all their own individual souls. They all come in here with their own individual life lessons, their own individual struggles, and their own departure dates, right? So even though we do have a shared experience, they are on their own path. Right? And I think that that's so important to remember, especially if you're grieving, because so many people feel like they just want to punish themselves or no longer have life experiences to honor those who didn't get to have it. But in truth, they came here and they lived the life that they were meant to live 100%. They weren't robbed. They didn't go too soon. They went in the time that they chose for themselves before they came into physical form. And they know that grief is one of the biggest, if not the biggest teacher in this life. And your soul and their soul decided this. I know. What were we thinking? Right? So what that does is allows a little bit of peace to come in. It allows that acceptance come in because then you're not focusing your energy on this shouldn't have happened. If this and this and this would have happened, then that would have happened and this was supposed to be preventable. And life feels unsafe when we trust that everything is happening as it should. Not saying that we're approving it, not saying that this is what we wanted in this life, that we're happy that it happened. But when we go into the acceptance level, like, okay, this happened for a reason, right? It's obviously here to teach me something. I am going to be better for it. My soul is going to be stronger. Source energy, collective energy is going to benefit from me healing myself, holding myself accountable, doing what I need to do, maybe putting boundaries in place, maybe walking out of a toxic relationship or environment or job. I'm going to do, and this is for our highest good, right? Doesn't mean that it's easy. No, doesn't mean that it's not going to be difficult. It's totally going to be. But taking away that variable of what if, or this shouldn't have been, and this, and now I'm here, and all of this is a mistake. It changes the energy and it allows you to stay focused on what it is that you came here to do, whatever that lesson is, right? And I think that that is so important. I also think that it's important because the ego, again, loves to try to make us special and go, well, I shouldn't be having this experience. There is no one who is on this planet who is going to get through this life experience without these difficult experiences. It's the difficult times that teach us, right? Remember, we are perfect beings. We are perfect souls. We are literally made of unconditional love, right? We need to have a contrasting experience to learn. So no one is going to get through this life experience without some difficulties to learn from. Okay. And you have to think as well, and Spirit just brought into my mind's eye when I do readings and an infant on the other side will come through. And Spirit has showed me whether it is a stillborn, abortion, or miscarriage, it's all the same. If the soul was meant to be in physical form, it would be. It would be. You there is a lesson to learn, or many lessons to learn, when a soul, for whatever reason, does not come into physical form. Whether you have to make that decision for yourself and then forgive yourself and have compassion for yourself and hold that space for yourself, or if you have to forgive yourself, or to forgive your body for not um, creating a healthy form for this soul to come through. Let's talk about conversations. Do we communicate? Do we not communicate? Are we sharing? So many lessons, right? So there's just so much complexity to everything that we go through in this life experience. And when you take that variable of accidental, or like this shouldn't have happened, or what if that, or what if I make the wrong decision? If you have this belief that everything that is coming in and everything that is going out for you is on purpose, it allows you to move through these experiences feeling a little more secure, right? And always remember that you negative things, or challenging things in this life is never punishment. It's never like you're bad and you're not good enough, so we're just going to pile it on, right? It's happening because it's teaching you, right? And if your ego wants to point the finger, remember who chose this before we came into physical form, right? And I think that it just brings in a little more ease, and it keeps us a little more focused on healing in whatever way that you need to heal. So again, the lessons come in, the contracts between you and souls and yourself, and animals and partners and family members and strangers, even acquaintances, even people who aren't leaving a quote unquote large impact on your life. That is all on purpose. That is all pre-scheduled, right? And it's just wild to think about that. So I'm going to leave you with that. I feel like that's enough to kind of just open your brain a little bit more. Hindsight's 2020. So you're going to be able to look back on experiences and you'll be able to see a lot of the connections a lot more easily. And I think that that's going to help you kind of connect some dots as you move forward. But I would love your feedback on this episode, on what you thought about soul contracts. If now you're looking at life experiences differently, there's going to be a comment option here on the bottom. Or you can always go to my website and throw it in where we do the Q&A questions. I would love to hear. I hope that you're enjoying this contact, and don't forget to come back for your daily messages.